represents so much, and it really is beautiful. And thank you for all of the wonderful things that took place today. We've had a very successful day thus far, and important discussions as we work to end the killing and stop the war in Ukraine. We're all working for the same goal, very simple goal. We want to stop the killing, get this settled. I've just had the honor of being with President Zelensky and all of the discussions that we've had. We covered a lot of territory, and I spoke indirectly with President Putin today. We're going to call President Putin right after this meeting. I'm sure we're going to have a solid meeting, good meeting, maybe a great meeting, and we're going to try and work out a trilat after that and see if we can get it finished, put this to sleep, because this is not since the Second World War has there been anything like this. And the President of the European Commission, Ursula.
And fun fact about Finland, guys, Finland has been under Russian threat for a very long time. Okay? Fun little fact about Finland. They pretty much, I think they joined NATO recently, if I'm not mistaken. Like a couple of years ago after Ukraine was invaded. Yep. Finland officially joined NATO on April 4, 2023. So for a very long time, guys, Finland stayed neutral, right? Because strategically speaking, it's like in between Russia and one of the countries in between Russia and the Western world. So they've had wars with Russia before, and I think one of the most famous snipers is a guy from Finland. Actually, they call him like the White Death or some shit like that. But anyway, that's all. There's like a whole folklore story on that. But the long story short is, Finland's always had the threat of Russian invasion. So they've always kind of been politically neutral. But after Russia invaded Ukraine, they joined NATO, and Finland brings quite a bit of experience when it comes to dealing with security in Russia. So that's a reason. That's a big reason why they're there. I mean, they're obviously not going to say this in this press conference, but Finland has been very good at defending themselves and keep putting themselves in. How do I say this? Putting themselves in a geopolitical position to avoid being invaded by Russia. And obviously, they had to pull the trigger and join NATO in 2023. But for a very long time, that they were a neutral party.
Von der Leyen, who is somebody that we just made a big deal with all of those countries. I don't know. I think you might be more powerful than all these guys at this table. I don't know. But we had a great negotiation, and you're respected all over the world. So I want to thank you very much for being here. It's a great honor to have you. The Alaska summit reinforced my belief that while difficult, peace is within reach, and I believe that in a very significant step, President Putin agreed that Russia would accept security guarantees for Ukraine, and this is one of the key points that we need to consider, and we're going to be considering that at the table also, like who will do what.
So just to analyze this for you guys a little bit. So here's the problem, okay? So Zelensky's a bit delusional, right? And this is why they keep having these meetings with this fuck guy to let him know, bro, you're not getting that 20 to 30% back of Eastern Ukraine. It's cooked. At this point, we got to stop the bleeding and stop the Russian advancement, because the Russians are doing a battle of attrition, and that's where they're going to win, because they simply have more soldiers. Ukraine does not have the bodies anymore, regardless of the technology we give them. They no longer have the bodies to fight this war effectively against the Russians. And every day that goes by is more territory being lost by Ukraine. So Putin is in no rush to fucking make this happen. The West is. This is why Trump is convening with Zelensky and all these European leaders, because what's basically going on here, guys, is Zelensky's going to need to agree, okay, to I don't want to say surrender, but basically that's what it is. They're not going to call it a surrender. They're going to call it a fucking treaty or agreement or whatever. But niggas got to surrender, bro. He's got to concede those territories. And Zelensky wants to be assured that if he does give those territories back, or give those territories that or if he concedes and allows Russia to have that territory, that Russia won't invade again. Okay? And what they basically need to do is they need to find a way, okay, to give Ukraine the security and protection that NATO affords without giving them NATO, okay? It's fucking key here, chat. Key. The main reason why Ukraine wanted to flirt and join NATO is because of something called Article 5. Article 5 is basically a a provision that allows where if a country invades or attacks a NATO country, it's like an attack on all. In other words, you attack NATO, you attack the United States, because we are the fucking leaders of NATO. Let's just be honest here. Okay? And this is the chief reason why Putin could not allow Ukraine to join NATO, because there was constant fights on the Russia-Ukraine border with ethnic Russians and ethnic separatist group Russians alongside the Ukrainian military and Nazis, the Azov group, etc. Right? So Putin knew that if there's going to continue to be conflicts on the border like this, and Ukraine gets into NATO, that would create a national security disaster for them. Also, that would mean NATO troops are there, Western soldiers are there, missiles are there, all pointing at Moscow. So he said, you know what? We're not going to wait for this to be a problem. We're going to go in now. So since 2014, Russia's kind of been gathering up gold, improving their economy, becoming more sufficient, pushing more bricks, etc., because they knew at some point they were going to need to go into Ukraine and actually take serious action. And they got their fucking PB slap back in 2014. With the annexation of Crimea, Russia suffered quite a bit of, sanctions, economic sanctions. And it hurt their economy significantly. So they said, we need to sanction-proof our country because we got to finish the job and go in. So when they went into 2022, right, and inevitably the international community condemned them, they said he was a war criminal, they sanctioned him, etc., Russia was ready. That's why these sanctions in 2022 aren't beating them up as bad. Because he looks at it like, I'd rather eat these sanctions than continue to have these conflicts on the border, and then Ukraine becomes a NATO country, now I got a bigger problem on my hand. So he's getting rid of the parasite now, basically, is what it is. He's killing the cancer now in stage 1 versus allowing it to grow and get stronger, which is NATO on his doorstep. So now the tricky part is Ukraine doesn't want to agree to anything if they don't have a peace, if they don't have security protocols in place. But those security protocols are precisely why Putin invaded in the first place. Does that make sense, chat? So Ukraine is trying to get something like an Article 5 within NATO, but without being in NATO. And this is kind of where we're getting into a situation here where it gets tricky, because Russia basically wants Ukraine to be a demilitarized, neutered country that can't challenge Russia. And honestly, he has more leverage to try to dictate that. But at the same time, Ukraine's not going to come to the table and agree to anything if they don't have certain security measures in place to assure that Russia doesn't come in again and take even more than the 20% territory they've already taken. And that's kind of where these negotiations come in, because a lot of you guys are probably wondering, well, Myron, why the fuck does this concern all of EU? The reason why is because the EU is going to have to step in, right, as well as the United States. But the United States and EU is going to have to find a creative way to assure Ukraine and Zelensky's security without triggering another conflict like with NATO. Does that make sense, chat? So they need to come up with some kind of fucking watered-down version of NATO that Putin will accept.
Essentially, I'm optimistic that collectively we can reach an agreement that would deter any future aggression against Ukraine, and I actually think there won't.
Bam. He said it right there. Come up with something that would deter any future aggression against Ukraine. Translation, deter Russia from attacking them again and taking even more land. That's what he's really saying.
I think that's even overrated, largely overrated, but we're going to find out. And I think that the European nations are going to take a lot of the burden. We're going to help them, and we're going to make it very secure. We also need to discuss the possible exchanges of territory, taking into consideration the current line of contact. That means the war zone, the war lines that are pretty obvious, very sad, actually.
Thank you, Buggy, for the gifted.
And negotiating positions. President Putin, also, you have President of Ukraine, who is, you just met a little while ago, and we're going to try and get a three-party meeting, maybe as soon as we can. And I have a feeling you and President Putin are going to work something out. Ultimately, this is a decision that can only be made by President Zelensky and by the people of Ukraine working also together in agreement with President Putin. And I just think that's very good things are going to come of it. So I hope we have a good meeting. And if we can have a good meeting, I'll set up a meeting with President Putin. And if you'd like, I'll go to that meeting. And not that I want to do that, but I will do that because we want to save a lot of people from dying. A lot of people are dying, and we got to save them. Got to save it. 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people sometimes a week. All of us would obviously prefer an immediate ceasefire while we work on a lasting peace, and maybe something like that could happen.
They want the immediate ceasefire because with the immediate ceasefire, the Russians can't advance. Key, guys, key. And I'll continue to give you guys more context as he talks about things, because obviously Trump has to say certain things in a certain way to not seem weak, to not seem defeated. But I'll keep giving you guys more context when he says things, because he's not saying everything. But I got y'all, ninjas.
As of this moment, it's not happening, but President Zelensky...
It's not happening because Russia's winning right now, and they're taking over key locations in eastern Ukraine.
And President Putin can talk a little bit more about that. You know, in the 6 or so wars that we stopped, we haven't had a ceasefire. And so I don't know that it's necessary. You can do it through the war, but it would be, I like the ceasefire from another standpoint. You immediately stop the killing. But I believe a peace agreement at the end of all of
the killing and the land expansion.
This is
key.
Something that's very attainable, and it can be done in the near future. With all of the wars that I got involved in, we only have this one left. Of course, as I walk out the door, there'll probably be a new one starting, and I'll get that stopped too. But I thought this was going to be one of the easier ones. It's actually one of the most difficult. They're very complex. The next step would be for a trilateral meeting, and that will be worked out. And I just look forward to working and having a great result. We're going to spend a lot of time today talking about, and we're really honored you guys came over. I mean, these are the heads of major countries and respected all over Europe. And they speak for, largely, I think I should say, but pretty much for the other countries of Europe. And we will come to a resolution today, I think, on almost everything, including probably the security. And that's pretty much the story. I'd like.
And another reason, too, guys, why this is important is because all these EU countries, they don't look at Russia as legit. They look at all the territory gains, everything that Russia's done. They look at them as you guys are war criminals, or we're not going to acknowledge anything that you're doing. We're not going to do business with you. We're not going to acknowledge you guys. So Trump meeting with Putin gave Putin what? Legitimacy. Very important, chat. Very, very important that you guys understand this, because over the past, 3 years now? Yeah, over 3 years. Putin has not been looked at as legitimate. Okay? The country's been sanctioned into hell. The European Union doesn't recognize him. He's been condemned. He got indicted by the ICC. So Trump meeting with him in Alaska was huge in legitimizing him, right? And it's the beginning of the world starting to recognize all the progress Russia has made on the military front of taking this land in Ukraine.
To say, Mr. President, would you like to say something? You have the media. If you want, you could come over and you could stand, you could use mine, or you could just turn around, whichever you feel comfortable with.
Thank you so much. I can speak without microphone. Thank you so much. I think that we had very good conversation with President Trump.
Very good.
And it really was the best one. Maybe the best one will be in the future. But it was really good. And we spoke about very sensitive points. The first one is security guarantees. And we are very happy with President that all the leaders are here, and the security in Ukraine depends on the United States and on you and on those leaders who are with us.
And basically, they need to give Ukraine some kind of NATO deal without putting them in NATO. That's why all these different leaders from the EU are there, because they need to make something that's similar that the Russians will accept.
In our hearts, they have been online before yesterday, and etc. So a lot of countries on the side of Ukraine, our people, and all of us want to finish this war, stop Russia and stop this war. We spoke about it, and we will speak more about security guarantees. This is very important that the United States gives such strong signal and is ready for security guarantees. The second point, or maybe the first, humanitarian direction, very important to exchange all the prisoners, and I think that President will help. And I was very thankful to your wife again, Mr. President, for the letter about our abducted children, and I hope that really it can be a historic role for the people to bring kids back to the families and be happy. And
Get the people back, yeah.
Yes, this is so important, and I'm happy that we discussed it. This track with
I got you, ninjas. I'm putting the subtitles on so you guys can read what this nigga's saying. His English sucks.
the President Trump, and I hope that we will find decisions. And then what is very important, that all the sensitive things, territorial, etc., we will discuss on the level of leaders during trilateral meeting, and President Trump will try to organize such meeting, and he said that he will come or not come. Ukraine will be happy if you will
both want me there, I will be there.
Yes, his English is good. It's just that he has a very strong accent, chat.
Yeah,
thank you. And I think this is very important. Yes, so security guarantees, bringing kids back, and all our people, not only warriors, first of all warriors, and all the civilians, journalists, a lot of people in prison. So we need them back. And guarantees which will work for the years. We spoke about it, and I showed to President a lot of details on the battlefield, on the map. Thank you so much. Thank you for the map, by the way.
Good map.
It was great. Yeah. I'm thinking how to take it back.
We'll get you.
No. I think that we had constructive, specific meeting, and I'm very thankful to all the leaders who are here, and you help a lot, and so we are happy that we have such big unity today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much,
for hosting us.
Mr. President. I think you'll see that President Putin really would like to do something else. I think when we set that up, when we do, I think it's going to be when, not if. I think you're going to see some really positive moves.
That'll be. I'm gonna look it up, guys. When's the last time Zelensky ever sat down with President Putin? Let me look this up.
I know there's over 1,000 prisoners, and I know they're going to release them. Maybe they're going to release them very soon, like immediately, which I think is great. But we're going to set that up today after this meeting. So very good and great remarks. I appreciate it. Mark, as head of NATO, maybe you could say a few words, please.
Yes, I will be very brief. I really want to thank you, President of the United States, dear Donald, for the fact that you, as I said before, broke the deadlock, basically with President Putin by starting that dialogue. And I think it was in February that you had the first phone call. And from there, we are now where we are today. And that is, I think, if we play this well, we could end this. And we have to end this. We have to stop the killing. We have to stop the destruction of...
And for those of you guys that are wondering, this is Mark Rutte. He's the Rutte. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's the Secretary General of NATO.
Ukraine's infrastructure. It is a terrible war. So I'm really excited. And let's make the best out of today and make sure that from today onwards, we get this thing to an end as soon as possible.
Yeah, this is crazy, man. How many people are here? Look, you can see Susie Wiles right here, who's basically Trump's chief of staff. You don't get access to Trump without her. Pete Hegseth, don't remember who this is. Marco Rubio, and there you can see JD Vance, Vice President.
We want to thank you for...
This is a huge meeting that they had at the White House yesterday, guys. I don't think I've seen something like this with every EU leader in the White House like this in a very fucking long time, chat.
Your leadership, what you are doing for Volodymyr, but of course also all the European colleagues, it is really crucial. And the fact that you have said, I'm willing to participate in the security guarantees is a big step. It's really a breakthrough, and it makes all the difference. So also thank you for that.
Well, NATO also has agreed from 2% to 5%, which is something that is a massive amount of money. And it's 2% that wasn't always paid to 5% that is paid. That's a big difference. And so we appreciate that. That was a great move. Thank you very much. Ursula, maybe on behalf of the Commission, you could say a couple of words.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a very important moment. Indeed, we are here, Europeans, as friends and allies. We had a fantastic NATO summit. Together as the two largest and biggest economies in the world, we had the largest trade deal ever agreed. And now we are here to work together with you on a just and lasting peace for Ukraine. Stop the killing. This is really our common interest, stop the killing. And indeed, it's very good.
And, you know, it's interesting, guys, because I don't even think most Americans understand what the casualty number is like. when it comes to this conflict. Guys, we're talking about hundreds of thousands to millions of people dead from this war. This is probably one of the worst wars since World War II. It's just that it hasn't been reported in the U.S. media for so long because Russia's been winning, so they don't want to give Vladimir Putin that W. It wasn't really until Trump came into office that I've seen this narrative kind of shift where people are feeling more comfortable admitting that Ukraine's been getting their ass kicked for the past 3 years. But I remember, guys, when this war broke out in 2022, if you said Russia was winning, or if you said anything that was like pro-Putin or anything that was like, against the narrative of us giving aid to Ukraine, you would get banned, bro. You guys remember Jackson Hinkle? YouTube banned Jackson Hinkle, guys, for misinformation when it came to the conflict. But you fast forward, 3 years now? And he was right, bro. Jackson Hinkle, Gonzalo Lira, like some of these guys, a lot of these guys were like some of the first people to like talk about this conflict and report that the Russians were winning on the battlefield. Some of the first people to report it. Gonzalo Lira, the reason why I trust his analysis so much is because he was living in Ukraine. He was there when they invaded. I think it was like in Kharkov or some shit like that. Literally right there. And I'll give Trump credit. He's the first president to kind of come in and talk about this issue and say, yo, this is a fucking problem, bro. This is a serious problem. We're losing. We are losing.
Good to hear that we're working on the security guarantees, Article 5 lies security guarantees, so important. But I want to thank you also that you mentioned the thousands of Ukrainian children that have been abducted.
Also, I had to Google this. The last time Vladimir Putin and Zelensky met in person was on December 9, 2019 during the Normandy Format Summit in Paris. That's the last time they met, guys, 6 years ago.
And as a mother and grandmother, every single child has to go back to its family. This should be one of our main priorities also in these negotiations, to make sure that the children come back to Ukraine, to their families.
Thank you. And we did. I was just thinking we're here for a different reason, but we just a couple of weeks ago made the largest trade deal in history. So that's a big thing, and congratulations. That's great. Thank you very much, Ursula. Mr. Chancellor from Germany, a very great leader.
Mr. President, dear Donald, many thanks for having us today. I think
not as great as the last guy.
This is extremely helpful that we are meeting and hearing that the two of you are having such a good meeting today here in Washington. The next steps ahead are the more complicated ones now. The path is open. You opened it last Friday. But now the way is open for complicated negotiations. And to be honest, we all would like to see a ceasefire, at the latest from the next meeting on. I can't imagine that the next meeting would take place without a ceasefire. So let's work on that, and let's try to put pressure on Russia, because the credibility of these efforts we are undertaking today are depending on at least a ceasefire from the beginning of the serious negotiations from next step on. So I would like to emphasize this aspect and would like to see a ceasefire from the next meeting, which should be a trilateral meeting wherever it takes place.
Well, we're going to let the president go over and talk to the president, and we'll see how that works out, and if we can do that. I will say, and again, I say it, in the 6 wars that I've settled, I haven't had a ceasefire. We just got into negotiations, and one of the wars was, as you know, in the Congo was 31 years long.
Now, I don't want to take, the wind out of Trump's sails, but a lot of these conflicts that he negotiated, which I'll give him credit for, they were already done, dude. Like, it had most of the fighting had receded. It was from leaders before that had more, vested interest in waging war. I'll give him credit though. Like, Trump is on a run right now, guys, to get a Nobel Peace Prize. For those of you that are wondering, that is what Trump is trying to do with this presidency. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize. That is what he wants. So, he's, picking up every single conflict and trying to end it. Hey, I'll give you some money here. I'll give you some money here. We'll give you aid here. We'll give you this here. Blah blah blah. End the conflict. Blah blah blah. Make me look good. Boom. You know what I mean? I will give him credit though for ending as you guys know, India and Pakistan got into a little bit of a scuffle earlier this year. But I think that that was like an opportunity play, right? Because the reality is that both India and Pakistan are both nuclear powers. And, you know, no one really wants to escalate to that point for obvious reasons, mutually assured destruction. So there was a conflict. Escalation was happening. Neither party wants to hit the fucking button and send nukes. So Trump's kind of able to come in like, hey, look, guys, let's fucking end this shit. You know, both of you don't want a nuclear war here. Let me get the credit and we'll help y'all out. We'll give you guys aid, whatever the fuck that they do. And then bam, done, right? He gets the credit. He ended the India-Pakistan war or prevented, you know, more casualties. So I give him credit for that one. But, you know, that was one that was going to, you know when both of y'all, like, you know when people hold you back when you're about to fight, but you don't really want to fight, they're holding you back, and you're like, no, hold me back, bro. That's literally what India and Pakistan was. Both of them were, you know, hold me back, bro, hold me back. Oh, you lucky. Because they both would have fucked each other up, bro.
Another one that we settled last week with two great countries was 35 years going on, and we had no ceasefire. So if we can do the ceasefire, great. And if we don't do a ceasefire, because many other points were given to us, many points were given to us, great points. Please, Georgia, go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Donald, Mr. President, for hosting us today in this important meeting.
That's Prime Minister of Italy right there.
And
Italy's run by a woman, LOL.
I think it is an important day, a new phase, after 3 years and a half that we didn't see any kind of sign from the Russian side that there was a willing for dialogue. So something is changing, something has changed, thanks to you. Thanks also to the stalling in the battlefield, which was achieved with the bravery of Ukrainians and with the unity that we all provided to Ukraine. And the reason why I mention it is that we also have to remind that if we want to reach peace and if we want to guarantee justice, we have to do it united. So that's why it's a very good day, the one we are in. You can obviously count on Italy as it was from the beginning. We are on the side of Ukraine, and we do absolutely support your efforts towards peace. We will talk about many important topics. The first one is security guarantees, how to be sure that it won't happen again, which is the precondition of every kind of peace. I'm happy that we will discuss about that. I'm happy that we will begin from a proposal, which is the, let's say, Article 5 model, which was Italian at the beginning. So we are always ready to bring our proposals for peace, for dialogue. It's something we have to build together to guarantee peace and to defend the security of our nation. So thank you, Mr. President, for hosting us.
Thank you very much. Emmanuel?
Thank you, Mr. President, for organizing this meeting and for your commitment. And everything was said, but I just have to say here, everybody around this table
Isn't it crazy that his wife sued Candace Owens? Isn't that wild, chat?
is in favor of peace. And we work very hard, and we've worked very hard during the past few years to have a peace which is a robust and long-standing peace. This is why the idea of a trilateral meeting is very important, because this is the only way to fix it. And by the way, I think as a follow-up, we would need probably a quadrilateral meeting, because when we speak about security guarantees, we speak about the whole security of the European continent. And this is why we are all united here with Ukraine on this matter. In order to organize such a trilateral meeting, your idea to ask for a truce or ceasefire, at least to stop the killings, as we discussed, is a necessity. And we all support this idea. And in order to have such a long-standing peace for Ukraine and for the whole continent, we do need these security guarantees. And the first one is clearly a credible Ukrainian army for the years and decades to come. And the second one is our own commitment, all of us. And we worked very hard during the past few months among the coalition.
So real quick for you guys, I went ahead and did a quick little check on casualties. Now, I want to let you guys know, no one really knows the total casualties of this war, right? Because obviously the fog of war, propaganda, people not releasing information, shit like that, it's all different. But basically, Ukrainian estimates are over 1 million casualties as of early August 2025, likely including 250,000 to 300,000 killed, based on daily reports from Ukraine's general staff. These are likely inflated as they aggregate claimed daily losses. And then Russia estimates roughly 6,000 killed, acknowledged by September 2022, with no recent totals released, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we know that. That's fucking low. Western International estimates 950,000 to 1 million total casualties as of June to August 2025. So many different goddamn fucking opinions on this shit. So no one really knows, honestly, which is crazy in itself.
Of the willings with the support of NATO to build the different pillars of security guarantees and our commitments. And you can be sure that the Europeans are very lucid about the fact that they have their fair share in these security guarantees for Ukraine, but their own security is clearly at stake in this situation. So you can count on us as we can count on you in order to deliver this robust peace for both Ukraine and Europe.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and thank you for hosting us here. Can I start where Emmanuel started, which is we all want peace. The war in Ukraine has had a huge impact, particularly on the Ukrainians who've borne the brunt of it, but it's also had an impact on Europe and on the United Kingdom. There's not a family or community that hasn't been affected. And when we talk about security, we're talking about the security not just of Ukraine, we're talking about the security of Europe and the United Kingdom as well, which is why this is such an important issue. I think this is such an important meeting. As a group, I think we've had a discussion on the phone a number of times, Mr. President, but be able now to be around the table to take it forward. And I really feel that we can, I think, with the right approach this afternoon, make real progress, particularly on the security guarantees, and your indication of security guarantees of some sort of Article 5 style guarantees fits with what we...
Boom, he just said what I told you guys before. The key here is about creating a security measure that mimics Article 5 without being Article 5, because Article 5 is the whole fucking reason that Russia invaded in the first place.
Fatality.
And this is where the, you know, tricky diplomacy and, you know, the negotiations really got to come. This is going to be this is critical to getting Ukraine to accept what's going on.
We've been doing with the Coalition of the Willing, which we started some months ago, bringing countries together and showing that we were prepared to step up to the plate when it came to security, with you coming alongside, the US alongside what we've already developed. I think we could take a really important step forward today. A historic step, actually, could come out of this meeting in terms of security for Ukraine and security in Europe. I also feel that we can make real progress towards a just and lasting outcome. Obviously, that has to involve Ukraine, and a trilateral meeting seems the sensible next step. So thank you for being prepared to take that forward, because I think if we can ensure that that is the progress out of this meeting, both security guarantees and some sort of progress on trilateral meeting of some sort to bring some of the difficult issues to a head, then I think today will be seen as a very important day in recent years in relation to a conflict which has gone on for 3 and a bit years, and so far nobody's been able to bring it to this point. So I thank you for that.
Well, thank you very much. And, you know, it's very interesting because this is the first for the White House. You can't say that very often. It's seen a lot over the years, since 1799, to be almost exact. But this is the first where we've had so many prime ministers, presidents, the heads of European nations. And by the way, Alex, I'd like you to say a couple of words, too. You're a young, powerful man. Before I finish up, I want you to say a couple of words. Go ahead.
I'll take the notion of youth back to my wife and try to convince her. Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think in the past 2 weeks, we've probably had more progress in ending this war than we have in the past 3.5 years. And I think the fact that we're around this table today is very much symbolic in the sense that it's Team Europe and Team United States helping Ukraine. And the progress that we're looking out of this meeting is about the security guarantees, which are a big part of this. And then, of course, moving towards a process with a trilateral meeting with you and President Putin and President Zelensky. Some of the international media might wonder, why is the president of Finland here? I think the reason is probably that we might come from a small country, but we have a long border with Russia, over 800 miles. And we, of course, have our own historical experience with Russia.
And I told you guys about Finland has a very unique history of Russia. Johnny Harris did a good video on this, covering like Finland's background and, their dealings with Russia, etc. If you guys ever get some time and you're interested in that, go check it out. But very eye-opening, man. Finland is a very important member of NATO because they've been dealing with Russia for decades and kind of avoiding. They've been able to basically do what Ukraine failed to do, which is avoid Russian interference and invasion.
From World War II, the Winter War and the War of Continuation. And if I look at the silver lining of where we stand right now, we found a solution in 1944, and I'm sure that we'll be able to find a solution in 2025 to end Russia's war of aggression and find and get a lasting and just peace. The situation is very difficult, but that's why we're here.
Thank you, Alex, very much. Good job. So we're going to be meeting for a while, and we're going to discuss some of the issues. And I don't think there's any issue that's overly complex. It's at a point now where...
Yeah, the neutrality is gone now. I know. Stupid. I literally said they joined NATO in 2023, but for years, post-World War II, they were neutral with Russia. But obviously, when they invaded Ukraine, they joined NATO. But for a very long time, they avoided it. So...
people want to do things. I really do believe.
I swear to God, people just like don't listen. Some of you guys in the YouTube chat are stupid.
If I've known him for a long time, I've always had a great relationship with him. I think that President Putin wants to find an answer too. And we'll see. And in a certain period of time, not very far from now, a week or 2 weeks, we're going to know whether or not we're going to solve this, or is this horrible fighting going to continue? We'll do our best to get it ended. And
all right, so we're going to segue into immigration.